Ants are a diverse group, measuring 16,000 in total, and we are always finding more. While it may not seem like it, even the tiny ants in your backyard are waging a massive war that has gone on for millions of years and will never stop. Their collaboration is baffling, and each species of ant is specifically designed to tackle other ants in their territory. Take a dive with me on the massive world war that's happening all around the world. The World War Ant. Hello, I'm Colin, and this is my ant formation speech on ants. Each ant species are similar in goal, and they share the same purpose, to defend their queen. Each ant species typically has 3 variations to accomplish this task. First, their queen, which will lay eggs for the future generations of the nest. Second, the workers, which will build a nest, defend a nest, or find food for their fellow compadres. And finally, the soldiers, which defend a nest or attack others. Sometimes the differences between these variations is drastic. For example, with the leafcutter ant species, or Adacephalotes, the soldier is 100 times larger than the worker of the same species. Ant colonies, however, or ant nests, are a little bit more uniform, at least on the inside. On the outside, they can still range from beautiful structures high in the trees to underground labyrinths, or perhaps the underside of a stump for the more nomadic style species. Each nest contains a central chamber, or sometimes chambers, for their queen, chambers for food storage, and, you heard me right folks, food growth. These are farmer ants. And as well as several tunnels to connect the lot. Each nest is in the best place as a strategic defense, food resources, and of course, expansion of the species. Alright, so now we've gotten past the boring stuff. We get into the meat of this topic, the war. You see, ants have been around since the dinosaurs. But as time went on, they could never expand very far past their home territory. As the eons passed by, the ant species right next to them were constantly fighting, which meant that every ant species was landlocked by their enemies. This all changed, however, when humans entered the picture. We did what humans do. We colonized. We set up cities all around the world, and we sent ships stringing across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. But with these ships came the ants. Ant queens could hitchhike on these ships and spread their colonies further to places where they had never been able to reach before. In particular, the ants from the Amazon rainforest were the best at spreading their seeds to new continents, because the Amazon rainforest is so dense and competitive that the ants there have the most fighting adaptations. In particular, the Argentine ant, or Linapithema humli, was the best colonizer of new territories. Well, the Argentine ant is not very special or unique when it first meets the eye. It only measures a small 2 to 3 millimeters long. It doesn't have a deadly stinger or a huge size to help it combat its opponents. One would think that coming from the Amazon rainforest, it should never have survived there. But that assumption would be dead wrong. For, you see, while other ants have invested in bulky armor or large size, the Argentine ants invested in only one adaptation: bodies. While most nests have one queen for their entire colony, the Argentines have a queen for every 120 ants. Each queen lays 60 eggs a day. That means in 2 days, they can create another queen to, keep the process moving. That means the only thing that limits their colony's size is food and death. Food that they were easily able to find in these new continents. For you see, when the Argentine ants hitchhiked on these ships and spread their seeds to the new world, the other ant species, the native flora and fauna, if you must, had never been able to fight these species before. This was the first time they had come in contact. And the Argentines, although they are not very powerful 1-to-1 ratio, they have so many bodies that they overwhelm nearly any opponent simply by throwing enough people at the resource until it dies and they can take it back. And because of this, they have gathered immense amounts of food. And with these food is the growth of their colonies. And with the growth of their colonies, they can achieve mammoth tasks, which the Argentine ants have previously never even been able to think of. For example, my friends, creation of super colonies. Colonies that don't just expand a few feet. Not even a few miles. Not even hundreds of miles. But colonies that extend across the entire globe. Every single ant in this Argentine empire works in cohesion, in perfect cohesion, with the other trillions of ants spread across the globe, in outposts, castles, kingdoms. What could you even say? It's the medieval age. They've conquered and set territory on every single continent, except, of course, for Antarctica. That's basically a no man's land, no matter what species you are. Heck, we have trouble colonizing that place. It wasn't long, however, before an old nemesis emerged from the original battleground. The red imported fire ant. Now, the red imported fire ant has 3 qualities which allow it to successfully combat the Argentine ant. Its first quality is in physical. It has a deadly stinger attached to the end of its abdomen, and it is also twice the size of our Argentine, sure, we'll call them friends for now. Our Argentine friends. Second, they also hail from the Amazon rainforest, meaning that they have directly fought with the Argentines for several million years, and they knew exactly all their strengths and weaknesses. And third, they're one of these 30 species, as well as the Argentine ant, that are capable of setting up global empires. You see, while there are 16,000 species of ants, there are only a select few that can have the necessary genetic components to create a global empire more than just a few miles. Now the Argentine superpower is used against them. You see, because a species like Linapithema humuli reproduce so fast, mutations are very common in their species. Sometimes a slightly different queen will leave their nest and set up her own outpost. This is not unusual, it's how supercolonies are made. But after enough generations, the 2 colonies might be different enough genetically to consider themselves enemies, not friends. In this way, the Argentine empire is breaking into pieces, and little species that before were not quick enough to get to this new world pie can now slip in amongst the cracks and take their own lands. However, this epic tale of conquest, heroes, and arch-nemesis comes at a cost. You see, the Argentine ants and their adversaries, in their global conquest for power, do not care about working with the native flora and fauna. They will kill everything and eat it in order to grow their colonies, and they will move on. Unfortunately, this does not have good effects on the ecosystem, as one might guess. The Argentine ants and the red imported fire ants are causing several species to become near to the brink of extinction, and they've almost made several species already gone extinct. However, we can change this, but if we choose to preserve our ecosystems, we can give the native plants a place to grow, a place to flourish, to defend themselves against these oncoming empires. When you go to the voting booth, try not to use or vote for pesticides, because it's a rather obvious one, but pesticides tend to kill stuff, and they kill the stuff that we want to keep alive. So maybe let's not use them. So, anyway, next time you see one of these hardy troopers traversing across your backyard, don't be so quick to just brush them off and hot dial the exterminator. They might be a war line advancing on another nest. They might be workers trying to find food for their queen. They might be an endangered species in need of your protection. If there's anything we can take from these tiny troopers, it's that with teamwork, heck, we can accomplish anything. And hey, a bit of genetic mutation doesn't hurt. Thank you.